Are you ready to go through essentially your virtual assistant checklist of basically what are the things to prepare as you get started? Now, when you're a virtual assistant, especially if you are starting in 2024, there's a few things for you to keep in mind, especially if you don't have a lot of experience being a virtual assistant just yet. Now, everything on this checklist is going to be available on my VA checklist. You guys can grab and download for free below, but I do want to walk you through what that looks like for you step by step. Now, the first thing is to prepare to become a virtual assistant, you need to educate yourself. Now, what I mean by this is Google is your best friend. Not just that, is you also now have ChatGPT, you have tools like Bard to be able to keep researching and learning how being a virtual assistant works. You also have, of course, so many videos of mine on my YouTube channel that you guys can check out. And I also have a ChatGPT for virtual assistants course that also dives into this a little bit. So feel free to grab that as well in the description below. But what I mean by educating yourself is learn as much as you can about becoming a virtual assistant. However, I'm going to add a caveat here. Now, don't just learn everything and that's all you do. It's important that you educate yourself and practice at the same time. There's this favorite quote that I love repeating to a lot of people where knowing but not doing is not knowing. So whatever it is that you learn from all the courses, from all the books, from all the YouTube videos that you take, is to take action in them. So what this means is if you learn how to do email management, for example, test it out. Play around with an email of yours basically and clean your email up. If you just learn how to do social media management, build that skill up. Do some graphics, do some caption, engage on social media. Basically, what you've learned so far, you have to take action on them, or else they're just going to be stored in your brain. And when a client actually asks you for specifics, it's going to be hard for you to explain to them what it is because you never actually took action on what you just learned. It was just another certificate or another course that you just finished. I always really recommend that you guys put into practice what it is that you learn, what you consume basically, so it then becomes part of you. Next is, if you still haven't yet, make sure to choose your skill. Now, even if you have no experience at all becoming a virtual assistant, you might have a skill that you already learned from college or from a previous work that you did. So as a really good example, if you did customer support basically in a past job, that is a skill that you're bringing in as a virtual assistant. If you did some graphic work or video editing work in college, like for your organization, you can bring that over in becoming a virtual assistant. There's a lot of transferable skills that you can go into, and this is where you learning and then doing what it is that you learned will help you in becoming clearer on what is the skill that you are bringing in as a virtual assistant. The next thing you want to do is to choose your client. What I mean by this is choose who you want to work for. What kind of industry or niche is something that you like going into? So for example, for me, when I started out, I choose working with fiction book authors because I really love reading books, as evident by my multiple bookshelves. So that was for me the niche that I picked because I was already knowledgeable about it. Now, what is a niche? What's a hobby that you already like doing that's going to be easy for you to work with that kind of person? Within 2XU, in my virtual assistant agency, we have fitness clients basically that we pair with people who just love also fitness, like they become their EA. We have this client who has a product basically for the fitness industry, and the VA that they hired with us in 2XU was a fitness VA. Like, she was into working out and going to marathons. So it's all about looking at what you're currently interested in and fitting that with a kind of industry that you could work with. Next is, as you hopefully have a good skill that you can start with and a kind of a good niche or industry you want to go into, you want to start researching what kind of VAs are these people currently hiring for. So this is going into places like LinkedIn or Upwork or onlinejobs.ph or so many other career sites that are out there, and looking and actually reading through step by step, one by one. You can even put it into a spreadsheet that you can keep. Or if you're using my virtual assistant checklist, I do have a spreadsheet-like place where you can store basically the types of job you want to apply for. But the point of this first is just research. Just look at what are the skills, what are the things that they're looking for when it comes to hiring their own virtual assistant? Again, especially for the niche that you're trying to target. This gives you just some familiarity of what it is that is actually a reality of the current jobs that are out there. So then you are not just kind of studying what's trending or what's something that other people have said you should study. You're actually looking at what are people actually willing to pay for right now. Next is knowing your tools. Now, there are two types of tools that you have to keep in mind as a virtual assistant. First one is, of course, your physical tools. So this is your laptop, at least an i3 or i5 kind of laptop, because those are usually the requirements anyway for most jobs. A second is a pretty good earphone or headphone. So if you're working from home or anywhere else, you're not disturbing other people. And of course, a really good just internet connection, because you need that to work, and a good workspace. Now, if you are sharing a space with your family, you might be just working at the kitchen or the living room. I've started from there. Just have a dedicated space that it is just you working. That way, there's a quick way for you to switch from being at home mode to working mode, basically. And also, hopefully, a space that your family or your friends, wherever you're living at, will respect. So then you can have that just your workspace. Next are your software tools. Now, when it comes to your software tools, you need a really good task tracker. Now, I use Notion. My whole company uses Notion. You can check out the link below if you want to check out Notion. That does help support this channel. But of course, there's also tools like Asana, Trello, Monday.com. Just find and search what would be a good way for you to track what needs to get done, versus just kind of reacting and not really having a process on how you want to show up for your clients. Next is a really good time tracker. A time tracker is basically just a way for your clients to know how long certain things took you basically to finish. Now, a client might have already kind of their task tracker, but I do advise that you test out and find your own. That way you are aware of how you're spending your time. Plus, it's also a good way to get used to it before your client asks you to sign up for whatever one that they're using. Next is work-specific tools. Now, what I mean by this is, aside from the task tracker and the time tracker, there might be, depending on the kind of virtual assistant you want to become, specific tools that you might need to learn. So as a really good example, if you want to become a social media assistant, it's learning tools like Buffer, Hootsuite, Canva. If you want to become an admin assistant, it might be learning more of the project management tools that are out there. A really good way to know what are the tools that you need to learn as that kind of virtual assistant is, again, going through those job ads. Look at the list of tools that they mention and start researching and looking them up, maybe signing up for the free trial, testing it out for yourself. So then again, you're getting just familiar about what these tools actually do and what they look like for your day-to-day. Next is you can start crafting what your service is. As you've done, hopefully, the research, you have upskilled yourself, you can start crafting what kind of services are you willing to provide. Again, kind of narrowing down, are you an admin virtual assistant, a social media assistant, maybe a bookkeeping virtual assistant? Whatever your background and experience is that you can connect to basically that kind of assistant you want to become. You want to finalize that in a way that's going to be easy for you to pitch yourself. And then, of course, then goes into updating all of your assets, which is preparing your resume and your portfolio. Now, even if you don't have any experience at all, you can start filling out your resume and highlighting basically specific experiences you might have had in the past that, of course, connect to the current work that you're trying to apply for. Now, when it comes to your portfolio, there is a whole process that I've outlined in other videos on how to create your portfolio as a virtual assistant, but it's basically having a way that you can show up and show off to your potential client that you can actually do what it is that they're looking for you to do. Next is, of course, then finding your clients easy. No, I've actually done a ton of videos, and actually the last week's video was all about how to get clients as a virtual assistant. I'll give you guys a summarized version of it, which is basically, one, look at LinkedIn for your possible potential clients that you're looking for. So let's say you chose business coaches. So it's going through business coaches and sending them like, hey, I like what you do. Actually consume their content. Don't just, mass apply. I like what you do. Are you looking for a virtual assistant? I believe that these are the services that I can provide for you. Let me know what you think. So that is what cold prospecting is. It's just, you're just starting out just blasting someone basically, or a couple of people. I recommend, if you're on LinkedIn, maybe just 10 people a day, just sending them messages and emails of like, hey, I would love to work with you. Of course, the second one is just looking at places like onlinejobs.ph, Upwork, also on LinkedIn jobs basically, and start applying for different jobs that you see that you could be a match for. And of course, finally, there's networking or asking for referrals. So this is going to online events, in-person events, where you can talk to different people and ask them like, hey, if you're not hiring right now, do you know someone who could be? Or if you talk to someone who you did a call with and it wasn't a match, like, hey, do you have a referral, or do you think there would be someone else who might be interested in my services or who could use my service, or maybe current clients that you have as well. So it's all about kind of getting yourself out there and telling other people like, hey, this is what I do. And of course, what I always recommend if you're starting out is talk about it on social media. Just share your story, share your process of becoming a virtual assistant, because then other people will keep seeing that, other people will relate to your story, will want to share your story. And anytime then that there's two friends talking of like, yeah, I think I need an assistant, like, oh yeah, I remember so-and-so is actually a virtual assistant. Let let me like connect you with them. So it just becomes part of a conversation because for you, you're just sharing your story. And of course, an important part of this is track and follow up. What I mean by this is track the people that you apply to and make sure you follow up with them at least 3 days later. As someone who has hired a lot of virtual assistants in the last 4 years, things get lost in the mail, like actually get lost in the mail. You might have ended up in their spam for one reason or the other. It might have been that they opened your email and just left it read. I have done that myself, where I accidentally left someone on read even though I was supposed to reply to that applicant. So it just happens. It's just good to follow up, to check in, like, hey, where am I at on my application? Am I still on the running? What's the next steps? So just that soft check-in. And finally, we get to repeat and get better. Basically, the whole list of steps that I just went through with you, that is your last step, is going ahead and still educating yourself. It is practicing what you learn. It is choosing your skill, choosing your niche or the client you want to work for. It is researching what they're currently hiring for. It's knowing your tools and getting better at managing your tools, creating your service, updating your resume and portfolio, finding more clients, and then tracking and follow up. It's just kind of that repetitive process that you'll get better and better at that will hopefully get you long-term clients that you're working for 2, 4, 5 years, or even just the short-term clients that you need wherever you're at in your life. Hopefully this list has gotten you that jump start of like, okay, how do you actually start? That actually is a step-by-step of how you can start as a virtual assistant. Now, if you guys like this video, of course, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there and comment below where you at in your virtual assistant journey. I would love to know, and if you have any questions, I would love to answer them. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so don't miss any of my videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to have a business from home, which you guys can check out those 2 playlists right here and the latest video right here. Now, hope you guys have an amazing day, and remember that small steps matters, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!